Hi, I'm Lori Harrison with DLP Marketing, and this is Shelby Lehman with Old Republic Title. We're so excited to see you today, and thanks for joining us. So today we are going to talk a little bit about imagery and content. I think that maybe what we've experienced is people kind of get paralyzed and they don't know what to post. And so what are some of the tips and tricks that you tell people?
To be honest, I'm more of the just execute, get it out there, and then learn from the mistakes versus being paralyzed by overthinking it too much. But there's also the flip side of that where strategy and great content can really help you. So I would say if you're feeling that weird, like you're in that weird spot where you are not acting on anything because you're so scared about posting the wrong thing, to post and then learn from it later, because everyone always looks at their old photos that they posted on Instagram, Facebook, and are like, what was I thinking?
It's like looking at a high school yearbook, is that right?
Yeah. You're going to experience that no matter what. So you might as well just act and then learn from it later and learn from these tips and tricks that Lori and I will talk about as far as to get great photos and great content. But definitely to execute is the most important factor.
Because there can be that like paralysis through analysis, and it's like, okay, I've got to come up with this big strategic plan, and I've got to create this beautiful grid, and then it just kind of sits there. And it does nobody any good if you're not pushing out the actual content itself.
And if you're not active on it, it's almost worse to have an account and then a potential client find you. Let's say LinkedIn, for example.
Okay.
A potential client find you on LinkedIn, and it's absolutely deserted. You haven't posted for months.
It's a ghost town.
Yeah, they're going to think, oh, this person isn't with it. And then there's going to be your competitor right there that maybe is posting more frequently, and they're more apt to go with them or to reach out to them. You don't want
because they're showing their expertise or authenticity of person by being engaged.
Yeah, and most importantly, they're showing up. And so really it's being consistent with your content that you decide to go with. I mean, you can create a beautiful strategy, but if you can't be consistent with that strategy, then it's ultimately useless. You just want that first impression that someone has of your brand to be the right impression and to be communicating what you want them to feel when they interact with your brand.
And so what does that look like? Because if we're really talking about, okay, what does my brand look like?
Yeah,
like,
that's a huge conversation, actually.
Right? So let's go with that avatar of an agent who is pretty savvy. Let's just say they've been on Facebook for quite a while, but they haven't really necessarily utilized it very much for business, and they're finding a lot of their friends on Instagram, and so they kind of want to transition over. And they've been in the industry, let's say, about 5 years.
Yeah.
So what does that appropriate content and strategy look like?
Yeah. So I approach it with a very customized approach. There's nothing cookie cutter when it comes to me talking about like brands with each agent. But for example, think of who you have in your friend sphere that kind of represents the type of clients that you work with. Go to their Facebook page and find out the pages that they've liked in terms of music, movies, their general interest. Maybe they're into Bon Jovi. And like attracts like at the same time. So think about yourself and what are certain personality aspects of yourself that you want to attract clients very similar to that. So for me with my Instagram, I'm very lighthearted.
Yes.
I take my job very seriously, but I don't take myself very seriously.
And that's a beautiful tightrope to walk. I think that's a great place. Nice balance.
Thanks. And so that my content reflects that. I'm posting photos where I'm not doing this cookie cutter pose all the time. Like I'm either jumping in the air or doing something interesting
and genuine.
And that's reflective in my captions as well, and my stories, my Instagram stories, and my Facebook posts. So I don't think too much of it. I just try to think, how am I feeling this moment? So long as it's a positive take. I'm never a complainer on social media. I don't believe in that part of authenticity.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Keep that for behind closed doors, because
Yeah.
that's not going to attract clients.
I think it's appropriate to talk about lessons learned and always provide solutions, and talk about challenges that I might be facing, but never go with that complainer.
The rant.
Yeah, bad luck. But yeah, in terms of your brand, think about, like, if you can narrow your brand down to 5 words that you kind of want people to think of you when they interact with your Facebook or your Instagram. Like, okay, they're fun, they're clever, they're bright, they're enthusiastic. Think of those kind
and
of...
knowledgeable, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's that side of it that rounds out a human, because we're still talking about a business page, and so you've got, like,
come full circle back to that.
Your human side, where you're interesting and engaging, and then your I'm an expert side, and then finding that perfect balance for your own audience, right?
Yeah. And a lot of especially agents, they miss this when they just post only listings.
100%, because you've got proof of evidence, and hey, really successful, just listed, pending, sold, and then there's no personality
soul to it. There's no soul. And people want to do business with people who are very similar to them. And there's got to be a good balance. So this overall approach to your brand is really important, but definitely when it comes to content and imagery, execute first, learn second, and watch these videos too to learn
yes,
for how to have great imagery.
So one of the things that we see on a really consistent basis is, if it's authentic to the person, pictures of pets do so well for engagements. And so we see, and that can be, it can be stock imagery and it can be your own pets, but we see a lot of engagement if that's an authentic place to go. So if you are looking for stock imagery because you're like, I don't have anything, beautiful to post at this moment in time, Shutterstock is a great place that has tons and tons of lifestyle images, and those can be really, really helpful for painting a picture of what my life might look like if I did move into a particular home, or just kind of talking about amenities, etc., of a particular area, schools, if you're talking about a neighborhood where it's, more young families or things of that nature. So Shutterstock can be really, really good for that. Of course, there's pets, there's lots and lots of scenery. So what I find really interesting is sometimes I'm not able to take the best photos just because of lighting or whatever happens, but you can get really cool imagery of the surrounding mountains. So you can literally go in there and use it like a database. It's got let's just say millions, millions of photos, and you could go in and find something in your area that you would be able to post that look good. Now, that being said, we also tend to see that the more natural photos where it's not perfect, like what we're talking about, just execute, they will also get more engagements than necessarily like a perfectly laid out, stock image.
And I would say with the stock route too, because a lot of people, they kind of know, like, let's say all of your photos are kind of taken with poor lighting, and all of a sudden you post this photo that's like amazing. Like, just kind of be up, like, don't try to pretend like you took it. Let's say if it's a beautiful photo of Arizona or something, your caption can just be complimenting like how beautiful of a place we live in, stuff like that. That's probably going to get a lot of engagement.
Absolutely, because there's so many people that want to be here, especially in the winter and spring months when it's cold and snowing elsewhere. I really like that tip.
And a stock photo with professional photography just really highlights the beauty of Arizona. And you can even say that in a caption. Say, like, there's no way I could have taken this good of a photo, but I'm glad someone did.
And talk about transparency.
People
love that.
People love transparency. And you're just straightforward and honest, but still honoring the photo. And I think that's where stock imagery can really play a huge beneficial role in content. It's just being upfront and honest with people, but utilizing and being really specific with stock imagery. Like, if you're a realtor in Arizona, posting a lot of stock photos of like mountains, make sure there's a purpose to it. We have mountains in Arizona, but like if it's obviously not somewhere in Arizona and your target audience is in Arizona, then you have to get really like certain, okay, what is my objective with posting this photo?
And it kind of goes back to that little bit of strategy and what you're trying to say. Another spot that can be helpful for people to find more artistic stock photos is Unsplash. And what I really love about Unsplash is that there are so many artists out there that will submit their photos, and they are completely available for free. With Shutterstock, you have to actually pay for the images.
I've never heard of Unsplash either.
It's cool. It really is, to me, a collaboration of artists, and it's a cool website just in general for like looking at beautiful things. But if you type in anything like, I don't know, yachts or boats or, beaches or something like that, so many different images will come up, but you can tell maybe that they're not quite as like stock imagery because it is actually an artist taking them, and those can be great for utilizing too. And I still believe exactly what you're saying, that you need to pay tribute to the person that actually took the photo. Like that's somebody else's work and you want to give credit, but it's a great alternative and it's free to utilize.
That's really cool. And then so then curating photos. I mean, there are some social media platforms that are literally only curated content. And that means like taking a photo that someone else posted maybe on Instagram and just reposting it and tagging them and giving credit to them and asking permission. But some people have millions of followers, and that's literally all it is curated content. It's interesting. Yeah.
That is. And so talk about what that could mean to an agent. So how would they utilize that as part of their strategy?
Yeah. So for an agent, let me think about this. Let's go back to scenery photos.
Okay.
So you could search, let's say Instagram, search hashtags, Arizona sunset. There's going to be a lot of beautiful photos that people have posted on Instagram. And this is even better than just a stock photo, in my opinion, because if you message that person, tell them, this is such a beautiful photo, would you mind if I gave credit to you and shared it on my profile? Most times, like 8 out of 10 times, they're going to be like honored. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It's so flattering.
Yeah, especially if they're not like a professional photographer. And then you can use this app called Repost, and you can repost that photo onto yours, tag them in the photo, also tag them in the caption as well. And all of a sudden, you bring that person to your profile, and now they're checking out your profile. So if you're an agent, that's great, because let's say this person, maybe they took a picture of Arizona sunset and they were just vacationing here, and you don't know if they're thinking about actually moving here. All of a sudden that opens up a chance for you. And if your profile's really awesome, they might even add that to their Instagram story, so all of a sudden their friends are checking out your Instagram profile. So this can spread really well if you are intentional about it.
And what's so incredible about that is you have a gigantic new audience potentially that is going to contact you when they get ready to come back to and visit Arizona.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love social media too, is like stuff you pull different audiences all to your content, especially if you just behave with really good karma too, or just a nice person. It always ends up coming back, whether it be referrals or people just giving credit. I mean, now you see it a lot, especially on Instagram. If you send someone maybe a gift in the mail, a lot of times they end up taking a picture of it, tagging you, and posting it on their story.
That is so impactful when people do that, especially when it's a gift or a card. A handwritten card has
they do it to cards too.
Kind of impact because it's not as common these days. And just really giving credit to that person for their thoughtfulness is a big deal. So kind of shifting gears, if an agent is thinking, all right, I want to do more authentic posts, but now I also want to do posts to showcase my listings. And really have that proof of as evidence on social media, but not where I'm like, hey, just listed, hey, just sold. What's some of the strategies that you've seen successfully deployed as far as posting those, but kind of maybe showcasing features of the homes or different things of that nature?
Yeah, so exactly that, Lori. let's say you have a new listing coming up and you're really excited.
Congratulations.
About it. Yep. Feature a specific element of the property that's really interesting. Maybe it's a room and there's a memory that the family who's selling it, like something really special happened there. So now all of a sudden, like stories, people buy into stories, and that's where you get like attention and loyalty.
Yes.
People love stories. It's not just a house. It was someone's home and they're opening it up to another family, telling a story about a room or a specific feature. I was in a home one time where the countertop was made of broken Sky vodka bottles.
Oh my
goodness! That blue glass. Yeah. I mean, it was
That's
an amazing.
a lot of vodka.
Home. Yeah. It was an amazing home. But the countertop, my client was telling me how this countertop was made. That could be a whole video just like that, featuring this listing. And there's probably a lot of elements in every single home that you list that there is a story behind it if you just ask the right questions. And that is a great, interesting way to feature a listing that people are going to buy into because there's a story. And it's not just only benefiting you by advertising your listing. It's all about how can you be valuable to your audience? Not what do you want to tell them, what would they like to see, and stories. I mean, stories.
That is fascinating. I mean, I'm just picturing what a
it was really cool.
Vodka
It was really cool. It was a
countertop looks
lot
like
of broken Sky vodka bottles.
Incredible, and I like that is so unique and different. So that storytelling being number one, that people can relate to what's taking place, they can buy into it, but also it's going to stick out in their mind because it's so unique.
Yep, they're going to remember that house with this attribute. And so many homes are also unique. And if someone feels really tied to something in that house, they're always going to be comparing that one element to another house. And they'll always remember it. It can even be something about the neighborhood that's really cool about this listing.
Some sort of park or dog park or whatever it is nearby that's really special.
Yeah, or something in the backyard. There are so many things if you just think about it.
Yeah. And being purposeful and going back to that, being purposeful, but also still taking action.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a tiny bit, what have you seen as far as effective tours? Have you seen agents utilizing Instagram stories to do a small tour through a home, or just doing a tour on Facebook that has been unique and interesting?
Not as much as like the normal posts. Most of the tours are generally happening on Instagram stories where it's a quick little like, hey, I'm in this listing. And in that case, a lot of them, the interesting part of those videos always end up just being like their personality and the person's excitement. Like they're just very naturally enthusiastic.
Like maybe
people.
It's an open house or something and they're getting jazzed for...
Yeah. Or they're telling a story about how they even got this listing, something like that. And that's where...
That's a great thing to talk about.
Yeah, how they even got the listing.
Because there's some reason that person clicked with them to trust them to list their home.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. And that becomes a little bit more difficult for the agent that's maybe more introverted and doesn't show up as enthusiastic. But if you're a really highly extroverted, enthusiastic agent, I mean, you can really win when it comes to Instagram stories. And I mean, I think everyone can win if you just kind of show your personality. I know some people who are like, they kind of chill in social situations, but they have those one-liners that just has everyone cracking up. Yeah, you can really win on social media if you just have zingers. But yeah, some tours, but the tours are very short that I've been seeing on Instagram that do well. And they're short, but they also generally have a story behind it, or it's the agent being very enthusiastic and also telling a story behind it. Everything links back like to the stories.
Absolutely. And if people are posting about a home on Facebook or Instagram, utilizing great photography, I think is really important, because there's still that yin and yang of that professionalism and having those like, okay, this is a really beautiful space and it's well taken care of, whether you're using filters and just like making sure that everything's tidied, or with a professional photo and then posting and utilizing those.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the tips and tricks. We'd love to have comments and hear what you're interested in for next time. So please let us know if there's a tip or a trick on social media or digital or traditional marketing strategies that you'd like to hear more about. Thank you so much, Shelby.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time.